After all these really exciting talks, Andreas made my mind boggle, and they talk about Docker and everything. I mean, come on. I have nothing more to say, really, but I'll try. You know I'll try hard. I haven't done much lately, but I have. I've been playing around mostly, having fun with new stuff. So this talk should really be titled something like that. I should have listened to you all. My apologies. You've been talking about a lot of new stuff that I ignored, working on with old stuff. And during the last year, I had a lot of health problems that made me stop a bit, travel much, much less. And people told me to, well, calm down, think, good time. And you know what happens. You try to sit down, you try to be calm, and then, woo-ha! You're getting restless. This is my new friend, by the way, Gordon. Another recipe for health, a crazy puppy. So I started looking at my home, because I suddenly stayed in the home instead of hotels, and said, oh, there are things to do here. And don't go down this route. You'll get really, really friendly with the mailman and all other that delivers packages to your door. You'll get Arduinos, you get ESP32s, you get Raspberry Pis, you get sensors. I got a bag full of sensors from China. The best one was the flying fish sensor. I still don't know what that is, but it's a lot of fun. And last summer I played, this is a solar panel connecting to a battery, all controlled by a Raspberry Pi, and a water pump from a coming waterfall feature in my garden. Stuff like this just starts to happen, right? And when you look at home automation, it's a mess. Everyone is doing the worldwide standard, joining forums, proprietary patented protocols, some open protocols, some really scary, like all the stuff they sell you in any store now, remotely controlled power outlets. Yeah, 433. Start a 433 receiver in your home, and you'll be able to control all the garage doors within your neighborhood, and you'll see the temperature of every building. This feels like the early days of VoIP. We had all these standards, and we had standard wars when I started. It's kind of fun. And in the VoIP world, I joined a group of people trying to solve a similar mess, a multi-protocol mess. And that group called themselves the Asterisk open source team. And of course, this happens in the home automation world as well. You have applications like Domotics, you have Home Assistant, and many others. I went for Domotics. Again, don't blame me, right? If you start playing with this, don't blame me. It'll be many, many nights, many weekends. And you'll have everything under control, and you show your partner, and he and she or she takes it up, and suddenly you have a mission-critical system. Right. Now you have to start monitoring the monitoring system so you know what's going on. So they're going the same way, and as in VoIP, where the hell is security? There's nothing out there. But while going down this path, in the first Domotics distribution, there was something else called Node-RED. Have you seen that? How many? Why didn't you tell me? Node-RED is so much fun, right? Or maybe you told me I didn't listen, like, oh, stupid. You have all these outputs and inputs, and there's a universe of additions for just about anything, and you get small blocks, and you connect the blocks, and over these lines, events flow. And you can quickly handle events from anything. add a little bit of JavaScript, predefined blocks. It's so fun. So I started to hack and do things, and it quickly got out of hand in home. So I really got this in my head. I brought it to work, and gosh, the Raspberry Pi that I connected to a switch on my desktop quickly got embedded into production systems. Hoo-ha! Had fun. Lots of fun. So Node-RED is an eye-opener, really. But it's one server only. What if we add networking and make Node-RED talk to Node-RED and other things? What if we distribute these events? What if we have a network-wide distribution of events? And of course, that's been existing for a long time. You told me all about it, right? SIP, yeah. MQP, RabbitMQ. I've been hearing you talk about it, I ignored it. But the task of a message bus is to take a bit of data and transport to 0, 1, or many recipients. And the cool thing when you start working with this is you don't have to know these guys. You don't have to know the consumers. You make a data stream available. And someone else might take it up, do cool things. I started publishing stuff from Kamailio. And after a few weeks, I tested that and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, right, cool, did some things. Another developer came in and said, hey, look at this. I have this screen on the wall, and I can add stuff here from your MQTT streams or what you did. So we decouple sender and receiver. That's important. Integration will happen. New things that you didn't plan for will happen when you decouple. You don't have to sit in meetings saying, OK, I send an HTTPS request here, and you respond. All of that, gone. And of course, we have multiple choices. Like Tori said, SIP, of course, MQP, CoAP, MQTT, Kafka, tons of protocols, just for fun. Looking at SIP, well, PubSub, publishing streams on a topic. I bet that group that worked with Simple had a lot of fancy meetings, a lot of really, really fun dinners. I'm really envious. But it totally lacked focus on interoperability. It's really, really hard to get interoperability in SIP PubSub. But we have a lot of the features needed. So if you know SIP, you know how to run a message bus. But there are not many third-party libraries available for that. My IETF friend says CoAP, Constrained Application Protocol. Stuff made for coin science computers, a mini HTTP. I think that may be an option right now. I don't see a lot of implementations. They filled it with cool features. But I haven't seen the implementations yet. I haven't seen the libraries. Lots of links, lots of requirements fulfilled. We'll see what's going to happen. You know I love IETF protocols. But then I stumbled over this in my home automation. Just about every example, just about every library supports MQTT. It's a small, tiny message bus. I believe it's what's created by IBM for IoT from start. Now it's a standard by Oasis, membership club. You pay a high fee and you join the consortium and you create standards. Not like IETF where everyone can join. So I have no way of reporting all the bugs I read in the specification. I'm not allowed unless I pay a high fee. If anyone wants to come forward and write me a check for that. So I looked at this and said, this is wrong, and this is a bug, and I'm missing all these features that I have in SIP. So maybe it's a good idea, though. Maybe it's a good protocol because it's so damn simple. Lacks almost all bells and whistles. That may be a good thing. Make life simple. A surprise when I read the specs that I haven't seen in any other protocol but would love to have a SIP is the will. The last will and testament. When a client connects to a server, setting up a TLS session, the client may add a will and an address to send a will to. And when the client, for some reason, loses the connection, closes it, drops it, gets kicked out, the server will forward the will. So we can handle disconnects. I don't know about you, but I spent many, many hours in Kamailio trying to trace WebSocket close, TCP close, handle that, see which client, unregister the client, all of that. Gentlemen, we need a will method in SIP. So that's cool. When we started looking at this, I quickly realized that the selection of message bus isn't that important. We can easily switch between them. But whatever you do with your data, the structure, the syntax, that is important because that's going to be your investment on the client side and the server side. Has to be extensible. And if you're going to leave one protocol and move to another, this stuff has to be the complete data. Don't hide stuff in the channel name, the topic. And also some version control on other things that we have in protocols. We also discovered that MQTT have no response address. There's no sender. So if you want a dialogue, messages going back and forth between only two parties, you need a response address. And you need to standardize for all your data how to handle that. So the selection of protocol doesn't really matter. You just need to get started, and then you'll figure out what to do. You can spend hours and hours and hours and set up a fault-tolerant, scalable, failover-able RabbitMQ server. Very few people I work with have been able to do that because it's really hard. Most of the time, you can bridge between protocols. RabbitMQ have MQTT, so that's fine. But it's the data and the format of the data that really, really matters. So we picked MQTT because it was a simple starting point and it was running on many servers. I added MQTT to Janus. There was a module for control. I added Event API. And Alex just showed us some of the messages you get from the Event API. You get control over everything that happens in your Janus WebRTC gateway. So I have a push request on that. I hope to speak with Lorenzo over there and bribe him into taking my lousy code and fix it by himself. We'll see. And of course, Kamailio needed MQTT. So I took the MQP module, hacked it to bits and pieces, added MQTT library, and crashed and burned. I should have James with me because he would have awarded so many medals for all those crashes. I finally got Kamailio to send one message and crash until I realized that that library was multi-threading, and multi-threading for every single process. Don't do that. So right now I'm using exec to run Mosquito Publish. In the shell, it's very embarrassing. I'll come back. I found another library which is much more raw. But actually, looking at this stuff, it may be easier just to add a native MQTT broker to Kamailio because we have the protocol engines. We can do it much better. So I published the registration events, all the dialogue events, and we can do really cool stuff. We also worked with Alfred and BareSIP to add an MQTT control channel to BareSIP. So not only can we start calls, end calls, transfer calls, we can also get live RTCP feeds. And if you see what we do in the radios, our calls, for instance, during the Olympics, we had 2 weeks single SIP call. So we need those live feedbacks during the calls because our calls are not really short. So this is really cool. We connected to Node-RED. When we got the patch from Alfred, we just connected Node-RED. We got the graphs up and running. We can control Opus. During call, we can modify Opus based on the RTCP from Node. Oh, it's a wonder. So what we ended up with is connecting all these guys, some other guys to MQTT. We have the Node-RED, but we also have some other stuff we built with Node.js and scripting languages, Bash scripts, running Mosquito sub, connecting everything. So what's the real benefit of this? No more monolith. We have one monolithic application that does it all. I guess you have as well. Everything in that one code set that those graphs, stats, live updates, database handling, everything. That's really hard to manage, and you end up with a few developers that knows it all, and if you add a new developer, things will crash and burn, and James Body will send congratulations. No fun. So the idea here, and of course you guys have told me, and I've seen on previous slides that you're doing this. You have producers, you have consumers, you separate them with a message bus, and you can, of course, run containers, stuff for all of this. But you separate things. You agree on a protocol in between, right? That's the whole idea with IP, and we're doing that with the application, yeah. I know. I'm trying to catch up with you guys. Run. So where I'm going with all this? Well, I'm looking hard into security. I need authentication. If someone drops me a very important MQTT message, like reboot now, I want to know that I can trust that message, right? So I need authentication. I need to make sure that no one fooled with the message while in transit. And I need to be able to send confidential messages. If you Google this for MQTT, they can say, oh, you can add encryption for all of this. Right. It's like many old RFCs saying, well, security, add TLS. Done. No, it's not done. How do you handle key distribution? How do you set up identities? What's an identity? There's a lot of work to be done here. And guess what? It's the same work we have to do for SIP and Jabber and, right, you know it. So how far will Node-RED go? They have a lot of cool plans. They added Git versioning into Node-RED now, which was a problem because you started working with all these flows and it got out of hand and you had no version control and you couldn't easily replicate it. They're fixing that. They're also working on distributed Node-RED, so you can push out flows to Node-RED agents. So that's going to be sexy. But when you start working with Node-RED, development quickly gets spaghetti-like. You get page after page after page with flows, and it's hard to follow. It's cool for small demos, testing. But I'm going to keep Node-RED in there for the small stuff and the testing stuff and debugging, but we're looking for a new architecture. And some of these slides should have changed after a very nice dinner powered by my Portuguese friends yesterday. But I'm looking for a microservices platform here because that's obviously the way to go if I change my mind and actually listen to what you say and been saying all day and yesterday. I'm trying to find a platform. It could be Docker, it could be LXC, it could be something else. But when you start looking into this world, everything is focused on HTTP, everything is focused on NATs with port forwarding, and oh, I don't want that. I'm looking for multi-protocol solutions. I probably need to go with the native bridging, Open vSwitch or something. Having IPv6 in there is an excellent match. You can have IPv4 for the old clients outside, and you can have IPv6 dual stacks towards your customers. But stop messing with IPv4 on your internal networks. Stop messing with 10-class networks and NATs and all that shit. IPv6 is what you need. And of course, there are no examples out there, so we need to create them. I want TLS security built in. I know Docker has some cool things there for trusting container management and so, but we need a lot more. I'm looking for identity handling. There's a lot of cool stuff coming out of the IETF because of, well, all the pressure on crypto and integrity. And I want it all API controlled so I can leave Node-RED and still control the world with Node-RED. Ha. And I look at Kamailio and stuff Daniel has been doing and some others. And I finally understand what's going on. These guys have been years ahead of me. I'm sorry. I'm trying to catch up. We have a lot of this cool stuff. Well, I contributed one thing, or half of one thing. We have multiple HTTP modules. But we have a lot of this. And Kamailio is all about events, event-driven programming. We have the event-driven engine for the future, folks. Kamailio is already aboard. Just make sure you're aboard too. I wasn't. I'm getting there. So finally, a few reminders. PASCOM, the PBX is still dead. Did you hear? Good. IPv4 is dying fast. There's no more addresses for Europe. It's gone. The last pool, gone. You need to be IPv6 compatible. You really need to start thinking IPv6. We need more crypto. We need TLS everywhere. And I need you to help me fix SIP. And near SIP S:, forget it. It's dead. We need to replace that with something else, but the standards doesn't work. We need to kill the big monolith. I'm sorry, Matt and Asterisk. We had ideas, though, many, many years ago in the Hydra project, building a very distributed Asterisk. And I think with the new APIs we have in Asterisk, Asterisk will get there as well. And as a last reminder, Matt and I, we are running since many, many years an open source secret project called openfreelibpri.org. We just decided to add ISDN over WebRTC data channels, which is critical for WebRTC, including, and Josh promised to fix the facts over data channels. So we're getting there. Have fun. That's the most important part. Thank you.
Okay. The first question, I'm losing sight, or it's IPv8 there? Version 8 or is 6?
You need my glasses.
Okay, looks like IPv version 8. I thought maybe IPv6 is already obsoleted as we finish the presentation. Okay, questions? Well, 1, 2 before heading out to...
Or if you haven't got
lunch.
any question, go ahead and teach me where I'm wrong, because I need directions here.
Okay, in the back there.
The whole thing shouts out.
Anyone?
You've got so much there.
Okay, so then my question about MQTT, is it somehow how you went to select that one, comparing with other, alternatives, because there are many I cannot, as like Rabbit or NSQ or even Redis and things like that. What are the benefits there?
Why did I select MQTT? Well, Daniel, when you buy a house and you start going down the deep path of catastrophe, meaning home automation, you'll find that every single thing has MQTT. So I started playing with it back home and did a lot of cool stuff. And then I took a look. I've been working before with RabbitMQ and everything. I looked at our requirements. And I thought that, well, MQTT solves all the problems we have to start with. What I need to focus on with my team is the data structure and agreement on how to make directories, how to publish, and all of that. If we find out, however, that MQTT doesn't solve our problems in the future, it's really, really easy to migrate and take the pain of installing RabbitMQ in a really scalable way with proper failover. But for now, the cost was just too high.
Okay. Thank you, Olle. Then we are ready for the lunch, more or less. Thanks for all the work with the project and coming to the event
Thank you.
and supporting us. Thank you.